God bless you. These same people have now turned on me, and some are calling me an anti-Semite. Why? What did I say? What did I do? Did I step on a rake and say something super anti-Semitic without realizing it? No, it's because I won't defriend you, and I won't condemn and say that Candace Owens is hateful. They want me really, really badly to condemn Candace Owens. And I'm sorry to break it to them, but I am responsible for what I say, not for what anybody else says. I am not Candace Owens's policeman. And by the way, they're kidding themselves that if just one more voice will say something nasty about Candace, she could finally be controlled. Like, how well has that worked so far? But again, the instinct is to stop her speech, stop it, make her stop it, make Tucker stop saying the things. Well, I have no desire to, and I have no power to. And for that, I was called a coward by Ben Shapiro at the Turning Point event, AmFest, in December, who, by the way, in my last exchange with him, literally said, our friendship, his and mine, is too important to both of us to make it depend on whom else we are friends with and aren't friends with. That is literally the last text I have from Ben Shapiro. The next thing I knew, he was standing on the stage at Turning Point calling me a coward for this very thing. So I am convinced now more than ever that there is a crew for whom everything revolves around Israel, that friendships don't matter, love relationships don't potentially matter. The only thing that matters is whether you are standing up for Israel or not. And on top of that, you can even stand up for Israel as I have. You also must not just condemn, but defriend anyone who is raising questions about Israel. It's important that that other person be excised from polite society, be ostracized, that you join us in our messaging to tell the world that they're terrible, they're evil, they should be out of polite society. And no, we're not calling for cancellation. No one's calling for cancellation or deplatforming. Just stop. That's not what we're doing. We just don't want them ever to appear at a Turning Point event again. We just don't want them ever to be invited to CPAC. We just never want to see them at a White House event. We just never want ever to see them platformed on your show, which is independent in the digital lane. Absolutely not. So it's fine. They technically they can exist in the ether with a microphone. That's fine. We're not anti-free speech, but we just need to pressure and cancel everyone around them for continuing a relationship with them. And it's absolutely disgusting. I heard you say this not long ago, and I completely related. I'd rather die than do that. And now that they've made that the stakes of my so-called friendships with them, I really won't do it. Now, I don't care what anybody says. Like, I'll never do it now. Even if I have actual disagreements that I otherwise would raise, hell no, because I'm not raising the fist and saying BLM at the table, and I'm not bending the knee to these bullies who think they can control me.
I always think to myself, I don't think I've ever said an anti-Semitic thing in my life. I'm positive you haven't. They never point to anything that's anti-Semitic.
No.
But what's interesting is while the rest of us are having these debates, a bunch of different states, including the state of Florida, the most important state in a lot of ways, has codified anti-Semitism as a crime, and they've defined, not anti-anything, just anti-Semitism, and they've defined it in a way that is so expansive that criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. The claim that someone is Israel first is a crime in the state of Florida. DeSantis signed this. And I'm just like, well, wait a second. I mean, I don't think most people even know that happened. And plenty of states have done that. And so I think we're going to wake up one morning with European hate crimes laws written in a way that is not fair at all, that doesn't affect justice, and is basically just another form of identity politics at the point of a gun. I think this is going to happen.
It is identity politics. It really is. And I'll tell you the number one reason, apart from the free speech principles, I guess the number two reason we shouldn't be doing that, it will cause anti-Semitism.
Well, exactly.
It absolutely will cause. In the same way that now, like, people don't understand Nick Fuentes. You may be familiar with him. They don't understand him, right? Like, why? Why are people flocking to Nick Fuentes? You know what? It's because a lot of young white men in particular have been told for years now that identity is everything. It's everything. It does matter. What is your in-group? And those are your compadres. And you better get some alignment there because we're factioning now into groups, and you better figure out which one is yours. And so there are a lot of young white men who have accepted the messaging of the BLMers and the wokesters on the left and have understood now, like, you know what? I don't want to follow what Tucker Carlson is saying, that we don't judge people like that, even though we're on the right. That I'm accepting the messaging that's been taught to me by my teachers, K through 12, by my university professors for 4 years, by my grad school professors, by the media, by corporate America, all of them, which is identity does matter. Your very goodness will be rated on whether you accept this premise. And they've accepted it, and now they're leaning into white identity politics and then being shamed because the leader of those happens to be Nick Fuentes. So that what the Jews who push those laws, and it is a lot of Jews down in Florida and a lot of Jewish people in New York too, they think that the answer to anti-Semitism, which is a problem to some extent, of course, is to get themselves recategorized as one of the protected DEI groups. And of course it's not. The answer is to demolish DEI.
Of course.
The answer is to stop separating us by group. And the more you start cracking down on people's thought crimes against Israel or even their anti-Semitism, truly, like, this is America. You're allowed to be a racist. You're allowed to be a misogynist. You're allowed to be an anti-Semite.
Exactly.
You're not allowed to like make hiring and firing decisions based on that. But that's not what we're arguing over here. We're talking about what's in your head and your heart. The more you try to criminalize that or ruin someone's life over those thoughts, the more you engender the very hatred you say you're objecting to. And this is in part reason the reason, Tucker, that I tweeted out that it's not Tucker Carlson and his views on Israel that are causing anti-Semites. It is more the Ben Shapiros and the Barry Weisses of the world. And of course, the ADL then called me an anti-Semite because what happens is, you see the cycle, right? Like, you get attacked. I didn't attack Barry or Ben. They attacked me. Again, just because I wouldn't defriend people. They attacked me. I said to them, that behavior is going to cause anti-Semites. Like, you shouldn't do that because this is actually undermining the very thing you say you care about. Then he swoops in the ADL to say, you're an anti-Semite for saying that to them. You're not allowed to defend yourself against their attacks by saying, hey, you're the one who's bringing more hatred into this argument. Exactly. Because that so on and on it goes. But I genuinely believe it, and I genuinely don't want additional Jew hatred happening in this country.
I don't either.
Most normal American Jewish people would never make Israel the stakes of a relationship. I know so many Jewish dear friends of mine who are sick of talking about Israel. Yes. Ben, Barry, Levin, they don't speak for the vast majority of American Jewish people who would never think of making your feelings about Benjamin Netanyahu the stakes of your friendship or love relationship.
He's the Al Sharpton of Jewish Americans, I would say. He doesn't speak for all Jews, obviously. There's a hostility. No. There's a hostility to some of the people you mentioned, particularly to Mark Levin. And I think you called it out. You called him anti-Christian the other day. Why did you say that?
Yeah. So he decided to go after Jack Posobiec, who is a great guy, who is a dear friend of Charlie's, and who has really stepped up to the plate in the wake of Charlie's murder. He's been doing so much to help Turning Point stay afloat, taking his podcast out there. He's been in close contact with all the Turning Point staff, with Erica. Like, this guy's been a real stand-up guy. He's been a hero. And not for nothing, but he's been great to me too. And I really appreciate it because back in the day, he and I didn't get along, but you know how this business is. Like,
yes,
you can get past that if you're a decent person. And he and I totally got past that. And I really like him and respect him. And he's been a leader on the faith front. One of the things we lost after Charlie died was someone who could speak about the Bible, about God, about Christianity, about faith in the way that Charlie did that was inspirational, but also that unique ability to tie it to our conservative principles. Like, that was part of the deep loss in losing Charlie. Like, that he helped you realize that your conservative ideals actually the foundation is in Christianity. But on top of that, he could cite the chapter and verse of the Bible, the Proverbs, all of it to prove it to you. Well, Jack Posobiec can do this too. And so I've really come to adore this guy. Anyway, he interviewed me at the Turning Point event the night after you were there. And he gave me, actually, on my tour, a beautiful rosary at Charlie's memorial that we all went to.